So today we go for a look at, we know say the Becker pupils for the on the exam, NPSC results don't come out.
Right.
So today now it's more on the education from the teacher
Right.
perspective and civil society perspective. So that's the conversation we'll forget this morning.
Right, and more specifically, so we want to look at the 680 teachers we for retire next month. And what are the plans? Because we always don't the crisis, we not get enough teachers them for cater to the needs of pupils across the country. And for help we push or shape this conversation this morning, we get with now the studio Sori Ibrahim Toure, the Secretary General from the teachers from the Teaching Service Commission. Mr. Toure, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning and welcome. Good morning, viewers and listeners. Good morning.
We get Alfonso Manley and Alfonso na Civil Rights Coalition activist. He also don't be very bold and vocal in the education sector. And the national coordinator for the coalition. Alfonso, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Samuel. Good morning, Fabian, and good morning to Fambule.
All right, we also get with Sylvester Meheux. Sylvester Meheux in the former chair for the Conference of Principals, but I think he also now the ex-principals them now the country. Good morning, Mr. Meheux.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to this program.
Okay, so let's start off with you. We see you come out with a statement that August 680 teachers for retire, of which I think that 203 head teachers. So take us through the process of, because interestingly, since me begin, or I get sense, this is not the first time we see, announcement of people there for retire. Some people can say this like lifetime business. But we'll get what to bring about this and how we'll be able to pick them up.
We get 680 teachers. That includes head teachers and principals of schools for retire.
Right.
In service, it's always established that you for work, serve, and then retire. So those teachers don't attain the age of 60. And as you attain the age of 60 at the government service, it's mandatory that you for retire.
Right.
But the Teaching Service Commission, as part of the activities, don't engage with partners and stakeholders and agree, rather than retiring teachers every month, then we retire them once a year so that we know we disrupt the school calendar. So even if you're born in January or you're born in March or July, we wait until August 31st, then we retire you. So that by the new school year, we'll get new teachers who will not recruit, then we'll replace those teachers with the retire. So these 680, we identify them since January, at the start of every year. Right. That's when we put the list together. And it is automated. The payroll system, they self-generate everybody will attain 60. So we're able to generate them from the payroll system and establish them. Then in March, we inform them, because we inform them, so they give them long notice that you should retire on the 31st. And now begin for camp, for work out your document. But the experience we get the past few years, now that some of the heads and some of those teachers refuse for bringing the documents them forward.
Which documents them?
The retirement papers. And these retirement papers include your teacher qualifications, your employment records, your employment letter, that is when they recruit you, when you start your first employment, up to the time where you retire. All of the schools you don't serve or who you don't serve, all therefore contribute to your records and build up your gratuity. So
the system, the teaching service system now capture all the information in there. In other words, if me start, I just give an example. If me start for teach, say 1990. Now I know so I not get the system. What if I come and say I start for, I generate documents, say I start for teach 1980, just so my gratuity can go up. When I not get a system where actually they pick up the start date of teachers and when then they retire?
It's automated. We don't digitize all the teacher records. So we get the information, but we need copies from you. Because during the war, they've been destroyed with archives in the Ministry of Education. So some records of teachers and we're not available. We will try for source out now and get from them for camp following complete the records. But we get over 90% of records who don't digitize.
Right.
So now that gap of 10%, we're working now for digitize as well. So in some instances, some records no go available now because of that problem.
Right.
But the majority, we get them. I remember yesterday, a former colleague, when they asked what one teacher will say, lost in document, they in house born, records and lost. So I go to the record system, I say, give me the teacher and PIN code, I'm able to generate the record and print them for the teacher and can give them all the records because those were digitized. But we get a few ways we get challenged with what they try for digitize.
How about age verification? We know say we live in a society who say, I mean, we know say if na this profession are there and I know say I get time limit, I always reduce my age just so I know retire quick and all of that.
I think that,
so how do you do that?
That's not possible. We get different layers of verification now. You get the NCRA with the generate your NIN, then you get NACIT, of course. So by the time you don't enter the profession, you don't give you one age. Then now this make this vocabulary come of mismatch. Because when they verify, then teach them the information. We find out that some they give different information as against what we don't establish na NRA, na NCRA. So when we match the two now, it becomes mismatch. And when it becomes mismatch, we flag them and we take you off the payroll. Because if all for synchronized, then for read the same. Because of course, what they recruit new teachers, so they can for play games.
But NCRA themselves gets a lot of errors where they make people the information them. Not the system.
Well, let me put the verifiers
what
against.
What are the chances of for the possible for rectifying information where AB say na NRA, na NCRA they make the error? You get people where, for example, na female, then they put male. As basic as those things. So it tells you errors then
when they do recruitment, now also a process through which they verify. Because we don't know whether the qualification we even present, whether you get them. Because we contact the colleges, so we get background checks that we do for verify, and then ask the teacher for producing birth certificates. We look at them, we verify as against all the information. But you must get a source document where you show you exactly who say you've been born. Then we match them as against what's available and do correction.
I ask you because you've been saying when it differ from waiting in NCRA, then just the flag them out of the system.
No, we give the opportunity for them to discuss them and look at the pros and cons.
Now look at the gap where this retirement can cause in the education sector. The ratio of schools and pupils against the number of teachers we available in the system.
This one, the one with the retire, it's an automatic replacement, like for like, kind for kind. If a teacher they retire, I mean they teach maths. When we replace them with another teacher who they teach maths. Although we can also consult with the school so that we get the school them preference for no waiting at the gap who exists at the school and waiting at the requirement, waiting which kind of teacher they want, then we recruit that kind of teacher.
Fresh recruitment.
Yes, fresh recruitment. So then they replace those 680. And the two processes, they go on simultaneously. As we put out the notice for the retirement, we also inform the schools that we need a replacement, that they submit to us a name of a teacher, either we don't volunteer at the school or through the yourself recruitment process, then send us particulars of a teacher, we for replace that teacher where they go. So August 31st, as then where they go in, 1st September, the new states they come, so end of September, then we'll get their salary.
In other words, now they pull from the pool of teachers
of existing
they don't get PIN code at all, they don't the criteria and all of this, so I want to bring them in the system.
In and replace then those going out. So that's how we do them. So both processes, they go on concurrently.
Give me a baseline, just quickly before we move over to Alfonso. Give me a baseline. Phoebe mentioned the issue of teacher to pupil ratio. Give me a baseline as to how many teachers they are the system, those who are PIN coded, the one the way they not get PIN code, and we look at the ratio of pupils the way we get across the school. So we understand, I mean, the implications and who side this will take win at the sector.
At the moment, we get on the payroll 36,500. About that teachers on the payroll. By September, we hope to reach that figure to 37,700. That's not the agreed ceiling with the Ministry of Finance.
It's not the gap.
So between that 36,500 and that 37,000,
no, I know they ask about
the 5 teachers.
I know they ask about the 500 gap between the 36,500 to the 37. And they ask about the gap for meets the people's demands.
So far, we look at around between 56,000, if the ideal, around 56,000 to 60,000 teachers who will need for meet the people-teacher ratio. But we all know the challenge, of course, in resources, because government self-challenge. We get other sectors we also demand then self-even support. So it's not just teachers. But we are happy that this government in the past few years not able to recruit more teachers and try for close that gap there on the people-teacher issue. The global teacher picture, the number of teachers available in the country is about 80-something thousand, about 85,000 or more at the end of the service, meaning private schools, government-assisted schools, you know. So, but for bring them all on the payroll, of course, it's a challenge.
We will get the figures of how many pupils then across the country for government schools in particular. I mean, with this 36,500 teachers, we will know how many pupils generally in government schools at the country at the moment.
I don't think I get that figure now, but
fair enough.
The ratio there around 40 to 1.
To one teacher?
Yes, around that.
Before we move to Alfonso quickly, the teachers them when they retire, is it just for public schools?
Yes, those on government payroll.
So you get teachers them way they both public and private schools. When they retire na public schools, how do they affect their work in private schools?
Well, private schools, like you mentioned, is private. Government no get hands there. So they are serving those schools. It depends on when those schools want to retire them. But usually, they can run to something 70 years. As long as you're strong and you're able to teach, the school will retain you. But for us, the government service, because it's mandatory that every government worker should retire at 60, so they retire them. But again, we get provision for teachers for stay on to 65. The one we teach science is a STEM subject.
Right.
That's the science, technology, agriculture, and math. So those teachers, engineering and math, those teachers, we extend them for them. But incidentally, for this year...
Why then get an extension? Is it that we get a shortage of
science
teachers in
those categories?
In STEM categories?
Yes, in the STEM categories. We get a shortage. So we present a cabinet paper, we cabinet approve that the service of those teachers will be extended to 65.
Okay.
But we give them the option of, now you present yourself and can tell you want for serve till 65. Last year, we get a few, we come back, but most came out for, so probably they don't tire, so okay, one go out. Yeah, but this year, as at the talk, so now only 2 don't present themselves as they want to continue for serve till 65.
Okay.
Let's
bring in Alfonso Manley. Alfonso, you don't follow the education sector for the longest of time, and you've been able to observe and monitor things. Now, with 680 teachers, they retire. Now, what does this mean for the sector?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll go and reference 2 documents. Of course, we got the education sector plan. In the education sector plan, if you look at Objective 5, it tells about strategic governance, management and accountability. And if you go back to the newly acted president just signed the 2023 Basic Education Act, if you look at section 8B, it tells the ministry will collaborate with semi-autonomous bodies. And one of these semi-autonomous bodies are the Teaching Service Commission. Now, if you put into practice within the Objective 5 talk in the education sector plan, where they span from 2022 to 2026, they talk about effective and efficient management. So how do you translate this when it comes to the MBSSC staff, when it comes to WAEC, and when it comes to TSC? So when it comes to TSC, you first of all look at the issue. In the education sector analysis, when a post-smooth way doing the system, then we don't identify, say, we not get a smooth transition. You know, they get some schools say, oh, this go say this is an acting principle. This go say, I don't act for 10, 15 years. Yeah. So how do we get rid of this? It has been an issue where the education sector analysis we don't identify. So when we have the joint sector review for ensure, so we get what they call the education sector plan for proper solution to that, the TSC and other partners them be sit down and say, how do we solve this problem? So thereby came a decision when they take to cabinet for say, let's have a specific date where if anybody for retire, they tell they send them for go home. And before send that person for go home, that person for don't inform the person in writing, and the person for make sure say for make who get to they call for cross-check your information and waiting the person gets, the person for submit all in document back to TSC. We might have them or we might not have them. If we not get them, TSC can upgrade the archive for say that 10% we don't bond, we don't lose, we don't get one back. They can further verify whether which samples they send is genuine or not genuine, then get for due diligence. Somebody will just count in certificate or more. So that lay the basis for the TSC on an annual basis. Even if you for retire January, they will not send you go home in January because they're not under vacuum. Therefore, you can say me an acting vice principal, me an acting principal. So now they go on a date agreed by all of us when at the 31st. However, the concern where civil society gets is the transition, right?
Transition from
the exit package where then teachers they don't get, we don't serve diligently to the point that you don't 60 year I they left. We for serve as a role model. Where somebody go see Mr. Meheux today, so you say no, me I'm glad for Canada teaching field because when Mr. Meheux retire in dignity. This is where the SLT and for glad the parts of this program for law deliberate this because they are going now the laws of Sierra Leone. But how they left them for go for ensure say the young one them go into the teaching profession, like how we say we get shortages in the STEM, which is true. How we go attract them for go, like we attract young Samuel and Fabian for kind of journalism field. I believe say president say look when I see una output say no like get more young ministers. Una serve as a living testimony. How we go ensure this? Now for ensure say we get institution them, we for don't prepare for this. If you look at NASIT, the biggest contributor to NASIT, if not to police and soldier, are teachers. Now teachers. So the SLTU, when an advocacy body, for don't they engage NASIT over a period of time, if not only free town, for say let's have a scheme. Also they build 1 woman pala, 2 women pala, 3 women pala. So when the teacher they retire, then they will call down, also learn how to forget, then they will kenema, then they will bond, then they will places then they. Also the raw material near Sunday, water day, we able to construct low-cost housing. So you begin, you can install the service, you say old 20 year, 21 year. Say the 60 year, within 30 year period. If not small stuff, you don't pay for that housing day. I will ensure so we get higher purchase facilities for those teachers. Teacher wey salary not do for buy plasma, they go not do for buy vehicle. How SL so when you retire with dignity, and this is the concern we have. It is the law clearly stated them for go, they must go. But how them go that dignity will go point say this man served me well, it changed the condition well.
But what's in the stop you, the Teaching Service Commission, and the other teacher body then put together, forget this engagement with NASIT?
Thank you very much. So if you don't follow me advocacy, you don't say what they talk and NASIT don't challenge me say no to charitable organization. Now yeah, I don't challenge NASIT, say that place on a bill like God rich, it don't make one sense to me as Sierra Leonean. Then poor teacher, then poor police, they put them money down for satisfy. Now I don't talk and say them more the way NASIT to go and build where people don't even pay said money and say for pay. I don't talk say to me, it don't make sense. Now my opinion. Then self get their opinion. Now I don't talk say that ferry where NASIT be go carry it. If not be low-cost houses, so look there, be the constructor teachers them. Now place like a Kubola, far place, qualify my bank, qualify Rwanda, then far place then they, who side teacher then they, because all the teachers they want kind of free turn now. Then they go tap and then slum place them. Because they're not going to parents and Wilkins Road, neither Kambusi, neither Sakila Road. They will go behind them, bang by them, behind them place them, and they all they go. We're not so dignity for teachers.
These are genuine concerns, Alfonso, and would love to actually have their recommendations then they moving forward. Because it's very important, like you rightly say, how we go attract me for going to the teaching profession, for example. I know say when I retire, then I have a decent and dignified life for leave. So at the end of the day, I mean, people will be interested for going to the profession. But I want to ask this question. How, for example, we know say the teaching field get this huge gap already, even with the existence of the 680 teachers there. There's a huge gap. Now, there's 680 teachers there, they left the field. And not with replacement, immediate replacement. Now, but you look at the experience with the teachers that don't get overtime and how impactful they have been in the classrooms. Is there going to be any form of adverse implications in terms of passing on knowledge to pupils them in the classrooms when they experienced teachers there they go? In other words, I want to know if there is any plan, perhaps after you comment, so we can also come inside, if there is any plan to tap into the teaching knowledge of them people who want for consider as accomplished teachers, where they don't serve for the longest of time in the field, how they will tap into the knowledge in the profession.
Yeah, thank you very much. in terms of the management of the school system, there will not be a gap. Firstly, in teaching profession, you go through the ranks. Be senior teacher, head of department, vice principal, and in the course of teaching, you go hold several responsibilities where you learn education governance and how you learn education administration, how you run a school. So it not go be a gap. And the Teaching Service Commission they for make sure so not get a principal when an autocrat, when I one grain only and solely they run the school. This is why you have the SQUAMS Directorate in the Ministry of Basic Education, also quality assurance for ensure say a school run as I for run. If that is being done, we will not forget a gap. But for tap into the knowledge, like when Mr. Meheux did so, when they establish schools, they look for some professional people that will get the experience and then board them. In terms of consultants, so then they develop the Education Act, they develop policies, they need them, you understand? But the natural law don't say when they're 16 folks. So they can use them in consultancy. They can use them within the school system, you know, when it comes to board of directors. They get several roles for play. And some of them one day, the exit strategy, they say they go into private schools. You can find out, say, some of the teachers or principals, they retire and they take them go to private school. Go make them either head teachers or principal or senior teacher based on their experience. Because they don't get that law compulsory say if you go at 60 or if you not STEM 65. That private school. But we they try for talk say, based on this new education act, so we don't get. We need more people than for kind to the teaching profession. What you go give them that confidence for kind to the teaching profession? Now when somebody they exit with that dignity, no exit with alala, no exit with problem, and we see and say after I don't exit, then continue for make use of in talent. For instance, I will always refer to Mr. Meheux. Me sit down and also I pass on the hand for business method. Where we then now let's see Mr. Meheux now in bedroom, he begin dictate. He go say, manly expect a lot of questions from me. Not so fear they put you on a preparedness. We need this kind. I mean, Mr. Meheux phase out and the school system up to now.
It's that experience there. So for the administration is one thing, but the classroom experience transfer to a point where there would be no gap in the quality of teaching where the pupils then they receive just because a set of teachers then don't retire. What in the Teaching Service Commission they do?
I think I can just throw light. When we teachers retire, most of the experienced ones,
right?
Because usually they bring them back either, like how Mr. Manley mentioned, either as consultants working with us or as facilitators. Even at the moment, we develop textbooks for schools, for literacy. Some of those teachers serve as resource persons where they work with we for develop those materials. Even when they do teacher trainings, we use some of them as facilitators. Like for when they implement the code of conduct, train teachers on the code of conduct, we use some of those retired teachers for comeback. So as long as you're active and you get exemplary service record, we make sure we bring you back and continue to work with we. And the schools then themselves get their own transition process. Within that period, we encourage serving teachers for mentor new teachers. So even as you're in the classroom, you get teachers with experience, we're supposed for the handhold you. We don't introduce a course where we call mentoring, so that experienced teachers in our schools, they mentor young teachers for see how they can groom them. So that transition will take place. Then in that process, then we will mentor teachers, we will teach, will take over from them. And most of the one they retire, if you will notice, don't reach them prime at the service. So mostly they become heads of schools. You see the number, 203 are heads of schools. Right. And then they get the deputies. Then they hand over again. In the case that they don't have a deputy, they must get a teacher, a senior teacher, where at least temporarily will hold the fort until we recruit somebody for those schools. So there's a smooth transition where they take place.
Before we go to Mr. Meheux, what are the number of females in this retirement list?
But I will get the, I'm not get the breakdown now. I'll not get the breakdown of the female. But of course, you will know, say, we get very few female teachers. That is about 29% of the.
So now get any deliberate policy for bringing more female teachers, especially now that there is already 680 vacancy for bringing teachers into the system?
One of the variables who they use for recruitment, we give priority to female teachers. That the criteria will set for recruitment, that if a male teacher and a female teacher get the same qualification, they apply for recruitment, preference will be given to that female teacher. Because we want to encourage more teachers to come. Because I remember when we said with the gap up, I get more female teachers in my school than male teachers. But now they give us. We get more male teachers than female teachers. So we'll see how we can encourage them back, for come back to the profession. So we positively discriminate for ensure that we try to build up the cadre of female teachers at the service.
Alfonso, we go to Mr. Meheux, but we'll come to you quickly. How you think, say, we go able for bring back, because so we just say before now we've been getting more female teachers, but now then they don't change, you get less female teachers. How we go able to bring back more female teachers into the system?
Thank you very much. You know what, we get the first Best Teacher Award, Presidential Best Teacher Award. The female teacher emerged victorious, Tracy from Kenema, right? That one they serve as a motivation to the young one, the way they come up, say, look, this teaching profession, amidst all the giants men the way they, within a principle, now that my female colleague emerge, Presidential Best Teacher Award victorious, it serves as a motivation. 2, the Gender Act recently we don't pass in parliament. Non-institution, no go do recruitment, they not take into consideration that 30%. It's not possible. Even though committee they also say they say go be mindful of that one day. Because you see say in president, in cabinet, he said mindful of that day. Parliament mindful of that day. So all institutions, I'm telling you, when you have more female, I know they cry down the male them, but when you have them more in the profession, I'm telling you, we they go back for claim the leader for say Atoms of West Africa, because they also serve as mothers. They also serve as role model. They also they nurture you, you understand? Anyway, for bring you up in that way, they involve in less extracurricular activities in school. The female teacher, I think this is not just the honest truth. So they self able for this. Where female teacher where it means where say this, you know they argue. But male teacher like intend for argue them, you know. But female when he said this now, so we need hand the back. So the pathway one way they don't get the law now. Also creates more opportunities for them. Scholarship, when it comes to scholarship, deliberately give them scholarship. So while they go into the teaching profession, una the line long for accountants, and then they take una mentor them, get them seminars for talk about the teaching profession, and they bring them success when they are out. I think we'll get more. Sometimes Fibia said will write, say, me say for go teach.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Meheux. Mr. Meheux, first off, how satisfying are you? I mean, living in I won't say the newsroom, the lecture, the classroom.
I am not satisfied, sir.
Okay, why is that?
There are many challenges we don't have in our school system. Number one, we have a lot of teachers now who are not on the payroll. And that also don't create avenue for exam malpractice. Because the teachers then when they carry them for who teach, for who invigilate exams, then they on what we call Operation Pay Yourself. Then they go collect money from the beginning for assist them. And certain areas then they will not they then they collect the money. Because some of the centers themselves, we want to talk to the ministry, they never look into certain places then whether they approve as centers for examination. So then now add to each area. At times they take me motoka for going up there. If I go to claim that place, it's difficult. So they go to get all the locks. Then they take the exam at last. But there are a lot of problems we don't see. But the major way they are bugging the education system. When they get workshops on a guest seminar, some man are adding on the book.
Mr. Meheux, I don't want to skip this part. We'll continue on the list where they mentioned, but this aspect for, say, the teachers, they're not sort of well taken care of, where they lead some them for day into malpractice. Is that any justification where you consider the sectors across, you get doctor, they want more salary, nurse, they want more, police need more, soldier want more, everybody needs more money. The more money you get, the more you want. So is that any justification for less some teachers than be outrightly unprofessional and engage and involve in exams malpractice?
No, the major thing, when maybe they teach, after 1 or 2 months, once you don't begin teach, then they pay you. When you get teacher, they will don't teach 5, 6, 7 years. We still they're not on the payroll. And inside the family we get for take care of.
Mr. Meheux, before we left, we did talk about, I would ask you if there's any justification for the teachers them involved in malpractice and unprofessionalism just because conditions not favorable.
No, I don't think it's right. Now make when you employ teacher, however little, make them begin pay them. Some teacher don't in the field over 5 or 7 years. They still not pay them 1 cent. Then get the family out and get for leave. So any program where the school get to they want make, hey now if for go to because you know they get salary. So if you go to a program where you see more money to make, and they go for go make more money.
So that's a motivation for corruption.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want damage any country in development, now the education system will damage. Once you don't damage the education system, whatever they do, the country not they develop. You see. So there are a lot of things that we'll get for do if we are for strengthening the system. I want to appreciate the Teaching Service Commission, where they give information, you understand. But me work in Ghana, Nigeria, and all the countries, I want me to share some experience. For example, in Ghana, before the person they go retirement, then they get what you call pre-retirement seminar 2 years before the person retire. So you don't begin prepare and say, you get for go in 2 years, you understand, which we get for do. Even like Gambia also, where you really want to enjoy the teaching field. Now then village you for go work. Then they give what we call hardship allowance. So people prefer for go. So in the case of Sierra Leone, the good teachers don't have free turn and they can't sit down or then capital tongue, they understand. Then village they're not the goodie.
So they feel say extra incentive for they forget people and for going to the rural.
Yes. Now so then they give when we start for teach, then we give remote area allowance. Then we give science allowance. Uda get HTC waiting almost single forget. The one who get degree, he get 2 loan above the one who get HTC. If we refer to them thing and day, it will really help for make the education system restore in past glory. There are a lot of challenges.
Let ask you personal experience. I mean, they use you now as an example. What do you do right now in a normal time when your life, you know, so you're always in a classroom? Now out of the classroom, what do you do?
Number one, right now, I'm an inspector for the Becker with the gun.
So you're still involved?
Yes. Law school bar final, they conduct the exam. I pram right now, so if we didn't get exam, now we then they call. Because most of these places, they need somebody with credible, you understand, information. So in the good school, so they say, go ask. I pram one, they go law school, they say, but who I can make me in a school longer? They say, and I call Mr. Meheux. I recommended the number of people them for take. And those are seasoned people. But Sierra Leone, which we don't observe, as soon as you don't retire, they don't abandon you. Take, for example, the 2004 Education Act. Now we be involved when they make them. But when they review them, nobody called us. Because the rules say if the person they are alive,
Education Act,
yeah, nobody not call myself. They not ask me. When they start Becker, I was the first national chairman, first chief examiner. Now we work with British Council all there for 15 a day. Then they review the business study syllabus when I'm in a first change.
So your experience is not being tapped into?
No, all man they go bring your party. Now your party they bring when they get all their workshop day. If you ask that they go, the people don't get the requisite experience, you understand. All the party business now they go. Because money they
you know, I asked about what you do right now, so we able to get an idea as to whether or not we're still, I mean,
no, I get plenty
into the pool of
plenty school them up to Friday and I'll call the school
of the others, where they, for example, the one that already carry tire. What will still be the usefulness in the sector because of the amount of experience where they don't get in the field? That
is wonderful. That is why we don't form association of retired principals. With some of the institution, they need some immediate contact, right. And they recommend credible people then. Because once I go, they say, hey, Mr. Million people in Africa and harder people them. Because you don't reach certain age, you come out, you don't retire with respect, you understand. You know, go find but name them 2-3 days we left for you before you go by and that. You see? We need credible people.
All right. So you just, I mean, with some of the few things we, Mr. Meheux mentioned. Now, you talk about, you get plenty people we don't teach for over 5-7 years, not receiving a dime, and that breeds corruption. It's a motivation for them for involving into things that they must and should not if we're to keep up credibility and look for quality in the sector. And of course, we don't know how some of the menace of exams malpractice and all of that across the country, especially when the focus always don't be on exams. But if you take at the internal, I mean, systems we for promote from either class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4 to class 5, I mean, we've never talked about the compromises we can happen and because then they left directly between, I mean, me and you teacher. So we always don't put focus on public exams, and it starts at those points. So if, for example, me don't teach for 5-7 years, you're not recognizing me, giving me a dime, and so you're not taking into consideration whether they pay transport for going to the school, where they teach, what am I eating, I also had to put money for pay me rent, but you still see me living good. How do you handle situations like that in the commission?
The recruitment process is well thought to. On the criteria for recruitment, we give the schools for select from them pool of teachers we already serve at the school. Those that have served longer. So I mentioned one criteria, that female teacher.
Yeah.
But another criteria, na teacher we don't serve at the school, we don't volunteer at the school. So that if we ask you for recruit, you will look among those teachers and we will see how many years they don't serve, and you choose from the one we don't serve longest and present them to me for recruitment. So we not just to go out and recruit teachers, but we give the school the option for recommend to us teachers we don't volunteer. And also, what we don't do as a commission, now for recognize those teachers we serve at those schools and they volunteer. So even when they do census, we then ensure that we get data on those teachers, so we know who they are, the qualifications we then get, so that when we recruit, then teachers we go recruit. Now, we work with the World Bank for develop a concept and a whole theme around community teachers with the volunteer in our communities, so that we recognize them. We know, like I say, we get a database of them. So even when we call for teacher training, we know they left them out. We make sure they are involved and they are trained, because we know them they serve and they provide service by the country. Yes, we're not able to recruit them, but whenever one recruit, we make sure preference is given to them.
So now, is there no time limit for volunteerism? So, for example, if I can't volunteer at the classroom, at least volunteer until 3 or 4 years, then we bring you into the system, or is it that when there's vacancy, even when we know with the existing amount of teachers, I mean, we still get a huge gap?
Yes. Well, we make sure we get data on them now, so that we at the center will know who they are and know how long they don't serve, so that deliberately we make a conscious effort for bringing them at the payroll, because that preference will be given to them, so that they will come and can serve. And like I tell you, since we established in 2018, we don't do over 12,000 teachers who don't recruit, and we make sure now replacement is done every year. As teacher they go teacher for camp, teacher they go teacher for camp, so that that number we will get, we try to maintain them, rather than creating a gap in the system. So we always make a case for advocate for our teachers, so that government give provision for recruit more teachers. As I talked yesterday, I even get a meeting with the Ministry of Finance for ensure that we make case again for recruit more teachers in the coming budget year.
Outside of
these 37,700 years, so that we'll get more teachers for come back into the system, who we can call new recruitment. Because we know, of course, the system is challenged. The North is the NSF want, the Army want, the police want. But now that we don't go through this election phase, now it's about development and education. We still want to maintain the momentum, so that we make up to the priority.
And also, Alfonso, you want for coming just quickly. So, Mr. Meheux also mentioned the issue of consultation when documents are being prepared. For example, they talk about the 2023 Basic Education Act, and Alfonso also mentioned the education sector plan. Now, plenty of people really follow education want to foresee how do we cost education. What is being published is not costed, but we know for some of we will follow the program, it was costed.
It was.
So now, how do we how do we get all of those things if, for example, the experienced people, where some of them are the pioneers of some of the things, like Mr. Meheux mentioned, are the pioneer, the Beke, and other things them. When they collaborate with the ministry, or both ministry, no, the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, how do you factor the experiences and bring in people them I mean, you go on for say, get institutional knowledge of the sector and how the sector operates. Even those days when we take glory for education.
You know, I just feel sad that they left out like Mr. Meheux. I don't know who was consulting, but Mr. Meheux himself know that like the teaching service, I will name like Ophelia Morrison, we retired quite recently. They with we. Most of our programs, and we get other retired principals who we work with,
right?
Just for ensure that we keep them back in the system. Actually, we get like Dr. Chukudupeni, we at the ministry, we still serve at the ministry, so we still retain a few of those old hands and experienced hands who we work with. But it depends who is leading on the consultations.
Right.
Yes, but you know, really we reach out. We reach out to most of them, tap from the knowledge and see how we can work with them. So we get stakeholder engagement, and those engagements they involve the players in the sector. We consult the NACOT, that's the Council of Head Teachers. We consult CPSS, the Conference of Principals, so that themselves will make we know those that have served, we don't retire, and because now they get the association, and that association we themselves get, they relate it we, so that from them once in a while they call them and engage them.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I just want to lay the basis. Before 2018, moratorium in day for recruit teachers then.
Right.
When His Excellency introduced the free quality education, he removed that barrier. He said, no, it is unjust for them to get a chunk of teachers and they no more, you say no for recruit. He removed them. We all now discuss them. We are part of some of their meetings then. To the point now, like the secretary they talk now, the TSC, they recruit over 12,000 teachers from 2018 to now it is unprecedented. They replace over 3,000 as they go so then they replace you. What you now agree, you see, when it comes to the teaching field, you get lots full of knowledge, teachers they don't teach at this country. Beaucoup. And then days then the way they do this 2004 Education Act, it was not widely consultative when Mr. Meheux did it. Remember when our COVID they said this act will destroy education. Nobody speaks. And section 14 of the 2004 Education Act, now is a singularly the minister used for make the education day like I made before 2018. Once Sabinani, we get authority over everything because section 14 gave under authority. It was not widely consultative. That's one. Two, make mention of say okay, you understand them keep calling over the requisite knowledge. I take exception to that. It's unfortunate to not call out. But if you look, you go to the list, because you know I follow the curriculum, I follow the act. Those have get concerns and at times they not call so many CS so they give justification. Because for instance, we don't know, they give money, say forget consultation. If you want to get teacher, they tell you say go SLTU. Specifically if na principal and they say go CPSS. Specifically if na HTI and they tell you say go NACOT. And they get a seal on the number of representation, and they expect you if you can represent it for go back and consult your constituents. By then, it will not be don't get a structure association like when Mr. Meheux advocate now say for retired principle. It was loose. Who that sabu that he called who that. It is good that I don't deny structure, so maybe in the future they will say we want one person from retired. You know, so the one that they call because now education. For say some of no, because you have the likes of Dr. Dabo, who is also a paramount chief, Professor J.O.D. Ali, now they involve. Don't forget to them, they don't take anybody who go say this person, no. Then Boku, a pool. It's unfortunate, you know, the part of them. But that don't mean say the system, they don't do due diligence.
Just quickly, how do you compare, for example?
This is why I want to
how do you compare a teacher and a lecturer? I'm asking this question because we all know, for example, a lecturer is, field-oriented. So you get a specific discipline where you good. And the teachers then will say that for many now all-rounders, they can teach almost all subjects. Okay. Now the primary and secondary school. Okay. For lecturers, I mean, I know that who can teach me English. I mean, communication. I know that who can lecture me whatever module are they. So how do you so who is best to be called for those consultations?
So who train teachers and the lecturer impact that knowledge in teacher for going to classroom and teach. And when the teacher go to classroom for teach, now the very lecturer they go to classroom for supervise the teacher. Say this teacher we are trained for teach. They do justice to the topic. So when you say education, now one sector, despite you have higher education, you have basic education. When you look at the education sector plan, now one sector, then they interrelated. There will never be a teacher if you don't get university where they train teachers them. So then the lecturer they interrelated. If you look the name they want to mention, they begin from primary school. Say they rise up going at the university. What our Lord, we don't expose people their name now, but if Mr. Meheux asks, tell them again, then names them, they not go pick one. We say this is substandard for the day. I want to defend that because we are CSO monitor that process. We write reports on some of them processes there. Now I don't make sure I don't talk back say the costs are when they get so it is small. You get a huge population, you want to go to consultation, you say we're going to Makeni, 100 people. How do you choose those 100 people in Makeni? Where go over 500 very important to for left. That's a limitation because of budgetary implication. Because when they go there, you go forget fear, you get forget this DSA, you get implication. Let's talk about the recruitment. We finally want to zoom in.
Go on.
Now, if you come to the wheel of the TSA and also MBSSC will recruit over 80,000 teachers today. But the Ministry of Finance will ask you a simple question. Do you have the money to pay them? For recruits, you get concurrence from the Ministry of Finance. We will tell you, say, the next budget year, are the factor in, say, for pay X numbers of teachers. But when you pressure the government, this is where then one day we see this big good people. When you pressure them, then say something at the middle of financial year, where it's not possible for go back and adjust. I don't they get the issue then. So in education governance, they follow the system too. For instance, then they get budget here in
possible
September.
for adjust. Forgive me. I know say obviously every country gets supplementary budget.
So I explain this.
Go ahead.
Now, the budgetary process they start in September. When it don't start in September, all MDAs are expected to go and present their deliverables to the Ministry of Finance, who will scrutinize it together with the NSA, non-state actors. When that is done, in some cases, the Ministry of Finance, they give you ceiling. Say based on the projection, don't they get year by year, you know for past this billion, you know for past this. When that is done, they scrutinize, they take to Parliament. Until Parliament approve, they cannot send those resources to those institutions. Even at that, if the NRA, National Revenue Authority, not able to generate much more projected revenue, where they don't focus, it is difficult to service those sectors. This is why we go in the Ministry of Finance from the 15th. If you get document, they will not attend to it, they will tell you until they pay salary for the next month. So first of all, before you make proposal, you have to understand that system of governance. Before you advocate, you have to understand that system of governance.
We also, just quickly, before I see Mr. Meheux wants to come in, just before we bring in Mr. Meheux, are we also taking into consideration the urgency? We understand that we live in a society where everything is a priority.
Yes.
And everything competes.
Yes.
We understand that. But also, especially when we, as a nation, we've realized that if we are to develop, if we are to correct the wrongs over time, education should be the priority. The government understands that. The government prioritizes education. I mean, the first time they prioritized, and the second time we see it's also a priority. Yes. And giving it 22% of the nation's money or budget, it means that we understand the seriousness of it. So should we also take into consideration that at any given point in time, there are going to be emerging issues that should be urgently addressed, which is why there's always a window even for supplementary budget. Even when government feels they don't expend and they need more money for do certain things, then they go back to Parliament with what they call supplementary budget. So how do we take all of those into consideration and see whether or not teachers should and can always be factored when the need arises?
Thank you very much. This is why now we're going to the Ministry of Basic Education, and now they approve school once a year. They say don't get that kind of pattern of calendar. Not to say January they approved, February comes back. Hey, this now honorable in this school they are both known once in a year.
Right.
It's good you mentioned 22% of the GDP of government in budget, the current budget. Now, if you look at this 22%, according to the education sector analysis, because we in civil rights culture talk with data and evidence. If you look at the education sector analysis, it tells you a huge chunk of this money they go to lecturer salaries, teachers salaries. Small money they go to capital expenditure. This is why you have the donor like the FEPS and now then go involve the EU in construction of classroom, school and all the rest of it. You know, we don't play around budget. Maybe now because of the experience make I talk so. I don't interact, yes, I'm a member of the non-state actors. Yes, they get the zeal for yes, Ministry of Finance do this now. You cannot squeeze water out of stone and don't have the wherewithal. So how can they train you as CSOs? What will they talk to the public? Will they also guide them back? Yes, the issue of recruiting teacher is an emergency. If I get me, I already put it on now. But what is the next step? For instance, let's be honest, there are some teachers who get pre-code, they don't get salary too. Because we force them for going inside the system where the system they will absorb. So you end up for take back say, you cannot squeeze water out of stone. So as me, we understand about the budget process. The salary for full strength. Now September, where you go defend budget. Now the teacher for mobilize, SLT for mobilize in this budget. Let we discuss for employ 10,000 teachers. Let that be a priority over anything. If you get around from that stage, for campus supplementary budget somewhere, it can be difficult.
So allow Mr. Meheux for respond to some of the things that we see, especially the issue of their consultation and other things at CB.
Really, we as Sierra Leonean, we spend close to 4 decades in the teaching field. Not all that job we go do. Me, a professional teacher, are really interested for see the education system develop. Even like Gambia, me now one of them will be the mark them people now. Now we go train them. But now they are okay. What we need for do? Now forget right people na the right place. Teachers in the profession, whether you get doctorate or not, and not make you a professional teacher for a primary or secondary school. Where they go college, then they train person either for teaching a primary school or junior secondary school or senior secondary school. There are areas we get for strength in the education system. I can always talk to Mr. Touré. We get people in way they don't promote to head teachers for over 2 or 3 years, straighten out the not gonna their skill. I go tell you. When they talk with me evidence. I know they support nobody. I want the education system when I did my life day. My life not in any other system. Past education, I'm making a teacher who can go learn. If we British, they can win a British trained commercial teacher in this country. All we to see, let us work as a team for develop the education system. Any side we go, we see lapses. Make we try for correct the areas there. Me not go promote any other body we get organization for see it will benefit from it. Me not picking them at the day inside my blood. Anybody we care for people picking, God will surely care for you yourself your picking. That's not my interest in the education system. Things are not going as we expect because we need a lot of training for the teachers them. We need like when they handover, like where they say the principal head teachers them for handover. If me get me say end of July, make the handover so that August, the post where they take over, and don't begin do in admission. But if you allow the post where they go, it will take plenty people put out of the school. But when September come, who are they answerable? Now the new teacher, the new head of the school. Then another thing we will need for do. Right now, then people are within they go so. Make they don't replace them. So by end of September, all on the way they retire. Make somebody don't take them place. End of September, make them get salary. Now the request and then they make.
Yes, sorry, quickly.
I think I will work for support Mr. Meheux in that. Mr. Meheux yourself know, just like he mentioned, me and they consult regularly. Whenever I get issue, he must bring them up to me. because we were colleagues.
Right.
Because myself don't they carry like an house small. I remember when they teach now, will tell me they teach now you must. So we all have been teachers at the profession. Those teachers retiring now, I think the ministry itself don't step up.
Okay.
I remember I talked to Director Kouma, Salima to Kouma. Then I present the list to them of the heads of schools where they retire, so that the process of replacing those heads of schools self don't start. I also want to support them that let a situation not arise where the outgoing head of school go populate the school with picking them because of that transition.
Right.
So immediately after this meeting, I think I will continue to engage Salimatu and see how that transition will take place. But see how the outgoing head work with the other head teacher, at least by the end of this July, let them do some handover. Because those serving in the schools are also concerned that if that smooth transition or there will be some problems at the schools when they come back here, because they go bloat the enrollment.
Right.
And we all know the Sierra Leonean, they want to take advantage and just left a mess where the other person will inherit.
Right.
Yeah, so we self-concerned and we look at what happen at the system and see how we will support that process. So please, one appeal I want to make now for them, one day wait for go. Let them bring them documents them forward. One for ensure that they get them gratuity as at 31st August.
What if
the
other way they go forgive me? Let's say the 10% documents we will not get now in our system. People not able to produce them documents. So for example, if are there amongst 10% who me did my records on our system, but then also sent me own documents and tell me also be done born, if man be done kind of things I have lost all those documents. How would I get my gratuity?
Let them just come forward as long as they have the PIN code. Because we ask them, say, the school self can make a recommendation.
Okay.
For confirm that you don't serve at this school. The school can write you a letter.
Okay.
For just confirm that this person don't serve, this is not the record we get at the school. Because some of these records are available at their schools. So they can source the document from the schools. Okay. Also, we don't able to identify some teacher records in the archives up in the college. Where I think during the period they do some mopping up, they may take them from the ministry where they find them do and carry them to the archives. So now we don't get some of them. Maybe they come back for scan and upload to the system.
Yeah, this issue of July, if you go back to last report to say na MBSSE, they clearly. We know also state say they not for do the interview. State say each school where they do interview forget a panel where for talk about say now this amount of picking you for recruit inside for camp. But again, some of the principles they get the ultimate power panel how. When it comes to placements, because we are in this business, the ministry is saying list na school them, especially then grade B and grade C school them, because you don't say we get 230 if you pass. Convent no go do 230. FSLG no go do 230. St. Edwards no go do 230. Prince of Wales no go do 230. Mark you, we have a policy called radical inclusion. Now I come Mr. They say St. Adena or PD for the day. So don't they say so they na motorman. They say for feel like all they feel now. Center for the day now we advocacy. It's part of the radical inclusion for the day.
But what if you pull me down for sending rights up?
Now that's not the issue in terms
that's
of
Mr. Meheux.
No, but again, if you are in the job, you can't specify how they can send you, then they know you examine for this role. Just go panel.
Wait, say the ministry they send list.
So let me just finish this one.
Wait, say the ministry they send lists na the schools. We know say the
for placement.
Yes, for
so
placement.
they go tell you them picking their so they don't make up to this grade of their school they are where they sit. For now make now they get first choice, second choice.
Exactly. So now that one for look
so
at. So
they
you get first and second
so
choice. 1 minute, Alfonso. Yeah. Now you know say you get first choice and second choice. Now the first choice you forget, let's say
grade A school.
Grade A you get 350 or 360. And the second choice now we don't meet that 350 or 360 for
choice for grade B.
So is that different from the list with the ministry they send?
Yes.
How?
What happen? Most of them they make mistake. They put for convent one first choice, FSSD second choice, and first choice. All of them are grade A school. It should not be. So we advocacy we make ministry don't fully say these are the grade A school, these are grade B school and C. So a lot of parents, because of the picking can be excited, they look at neighborhood. Then they go through for find out say if you don't put all this grade A, grade B. So the ministry back now parents. Now like a mama no more, you not get you say bad vision for to bad picking. So go look and say, oh that I not get it. Now I tell you see the basic education commission go inside where you call Professor Dupini. This is why they assist more. So go look and say, okay, here X number of picking that will get this mark, we'll send them go to this school direct and you for take them. So let's say you not get option. But again, I agree for say the outgoing principle because don't get some of them problem. I mean, don't at the serve na several school boards. the outgoing principal, if you allow them to interview, now that danger they cause, and they ensure say do interview to some point that we can say, when I this speaking, you say this kind in this school, but tell where it's all now, that man not causing damage, you don't go. So this is why the civil rights question we are unique. When you say the right things or things we believe say they move the sector will support you, but things we believe say you go say again when for your own way, because in many, if you have for say pool of knowledge, then pass teacher them. Samuel, would
they come back to you? Would they come back to now? Would they come back to now? Kali Silla is saying, I would like to know whether Alfonso Manley is okay. No, I'm not going through that. Tijan M. Kaika is saying, Samuel, how can young guys like us who have graduated from various universities come in the teaching field when there is no good for the poor? Teachers are really treated badly when it comes to financial services. It's really hard for us to admire the teaching job. From TJ Ndovabunabo. Barry Sin Baba Sane is saying, let the government have a bill on salary normalization. For instance, all first degree holders should have the same salary, whether you're a teacher, accountant working in the Ministry of Finance or anywhere, as long as you are being paid by government. Let there be improved conditions of service. For me, it's ironical. You see our politicians and other public and civil servants earning big, yet the teachers who taught them receive very little as salaries. Michael Coca is saying the financial sector makes about 76 million a month and a teacher makes 1.5 million. Something is wrong with the picture. Wage harmonization is needed ASAP. Joe Bokar is saying the retirement age is too early. It's a huge waste of human resource by retiring people at 60. They should keep them on special contracts. Guys, I'm afraid we have many messages this morning, but the final message I will take is from Ali Badara Kuruma. We need more proactive CSO like Mr. Alfonso to hit on burning issues. Those are the messages that will permit us to go on through, gentlemen. So we quickly, now, I know Asuna also want to respond to some of the messages then, but so at this point, you know, the huge concern is that the teaching field is not attractive, especially with conditions of teachers. I mean, what they're earning, how they're living, and all of that. Now, the commission now is a permanent outfit way for look after teachers. I mean, how you get them on board, how you keep them at the end of the day for make them happy, and I mean, give quality to the pupils so that we get, I mean, the quality education we all the yearn for in this country. What are the plans? What strategies now you think, say, you can employ for ensure, see, we achieve this bigger ambition of quality education as alone?
Thank you, Samuel. As a commission, I think we core mandate of look after the welfare of our teachers, to see how we make them happy,
right,
to see how the profession itself is improved, the conditions of service are improved. So in line with that, we negotiate with the union, and we don't get what we call the collective agreement. Mr. Meheux mentioned the assessment, to see how we can look at teachers we don't get qualifications or teachers we don't get promotion, how we will ensure that they get their skill, they upgrade their salaries. We don't do the first set, about 5,000, we don't reassess them, put them on new scale. We get another 3,000 who just don't complete. The data they between now, we don't share with Ministry of Finance. I don't get a green light that September, I go put them on their scale. You know, these are the nitty-gritties, the things we do within, that we probably the public don't know, for see how we can help with teachers. We introduce the Best Teachers Awards, a way for motivating and recognize teachers and recognize their performance. So we're not just limited to just the winners, but you get winners at every level. At the district level, let's say they get a compensation. You get at the regional level, they get a compensation. So we get certain categories we reach out to. And this year, I know we'll let the cat out of the bag, but we want to add some more spice to the Best Teacher Award. For see that we move from just cash prize, look at other things where teachers can get. Because we don't see examples like Ghana, Nigeria, other countries, what they do, and see how we can come and improve on what they deliver. And equally, we are a member of the Wages and Compensations Commission, who we discuss with the government. We will be part of those discussions to see how we will get equal pay, equal compensation. You know, equal service, equal pay. So we did part of that discussion. So when that commission they established, we see how the teacher in case will be brought forward and see how they will improve the service. Because myself na teacher, you know, at the field from a colleague teachers, just like how myself in the profession. So it's on us to see how we go fit and redeem we profession.
Alfonso, just one follow-up on the package them where the teachers them may suppose for the get. As CSO in other education sector, they wanna follow up. The teachers then they get them. I talk about things that they may even suppose for get them, picking them at tertiary level, for get grants as well, scholarships for then they get all them packages.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So first of all, let's say I want to say in that aspect, you get a huge discrepancy in the system when it comes to people information in that service. I go tell you, say if TSC not be careful, some of them almost teacher out for retire, but who go say they're a STEM teacher because they want to go up to that 60. So there was a committee set up, though the process, because it has to do with now basic and higher education, you know, for ensure say that one day be done. Where if you don't teach up to 10 years, you for going to the university. It was very slow the last 5 years. I hope moving forward, but we know the part of that committee. But I don't make some of my advocacy, I don't bring out, say a lot of teachers, you know, raise that issue there. Say don't serve more than 10 years and not get that opportunity. So at one time, the peer will be responsible, the process they go on, but it's slow and we bring some issues. Say, well, beginning and Boko and all, but I think TSC self get for look at that because now the beneficiary, the subject and the direct beneficiary of the one a day. And one of the things that will motivate teachers. That's one. Two, in terms of the 45% to be spread for 3 years, we all know say that only 15% annually, that is ongoing. And in some other motivation, if you look at the World Bank, the FEPS program, they do a lot of teacher development training, professional development training. So then they also invite people and they want a day. The problem is the quota is small. So say the entire government model and one person they go. The entire government will carry one person. So you look at how person go the next day back, he jump in the classroom. You don't get time for go to don't say Mr. Samuel, Fiber, na this Abilano, na this na the way forward. They keep that knowledge to himself. And in most cases, like Mr. Meheux, it happen. So the schools can get workshop fees. Whether na science program or na Mr. X they go. Na commercial program or na Mr. S they go. Na this so, na that one great teacher no more they go. So these are moving forward. TSC forgets a mechanism for the monitor. But let me say this here, I don't think we don't discuss this.
Which is?
First of all, now for congratulating newly appointed minister designate. Mr. President, they go look within the sector. You know, go take Minister far. You bring Mr. Conrad because don't get any experience in the Teaching Service Commission. Now, we don't get gap that exists at the Teaching Service Commission and the person of the chairman. Look within. The sector now go move like a train steadily because Conrad already know the issues in the education. And what the first talk I talk with the minister, I congratulate her. I say you get the opportunity now for can ensure say TSC do the right way them for do. Me they against when a ministry they set parameters for do interview for schools them. If for left now the hands of the TSC. When it comes to recruitment, exclusively 100%. Say you get letter of appointment for deal with TSC. That function they not for come off from them. You cannot have in TSC, they get another one, ministry gets another one. So who then are you boss? You know they get two master. That one na real we come for looking at the sector to ensure say TSC perform their role where they for perform. As of now, to me they underperform their role. Some aspect not for them to them, some then are the ministry for them for policy. But when it comes to 100%, I make the youth act and then at the board now. If you look at the new Education Act, TSC they don't be part of the school boards now. So that in terms of decision making they don't be. That's one. So one for congratulate them. And President maintain the deputy, they also want for congratulate them. It is time we do deep dive in terms of getting the actual data for on the system. Minister Senga have done well to the point that the whole world comes saying you are the best education minister. I don't set the pace. We not for go cool again. Then we move from that trajectory upward. him being the chief minister will give a lot of support to the education sector. We therefore now say agriculture day, not to say education no more. So the gains will don't make before consolidate on against it. So the TSC present for look within for ensure say somebody rise up to the position of chair. Go bring new post, he come back and for try for events he win. But I said, man, 2-3 years don't go. So let's move with this one and make yourself glad the way within. I make you know everybody say, hey, who's this minister come on? Who's this minister come on? All of them no come as Saki when it comes to teachers' business. So you ready for teacher business, President don't give the man to now for move the education sector forward. So all them gap when we make TSC, they do their work with them for do because of limitation. They get the owners for clear them now for make sure everybody function well. And also let me inform the public, the review of the WAEC Acts they go on. This is very critical. For the very first time, we have to pay attention to the back. If public get concerned, they can send it to the chief education officer because it's the professional head. But the public not can do anything there. But once the law don't make no more, they don't go payment, they don't go in and begin say that no be make fine. So we they inform you now. If you know say you get concerned about WAEC, the chief education officer and the chief government nominee to WAEC, you can send the concern now in order in office. You get the deputy chief education officer, we also do so. And the TSC Act also they under review for review the TSC Act. So this is where the SLTU can cancel Mr. Milk is sent for the part of the commission and now retired principal. This is the time they make the advocacy. Not only tell you don't go cabinet or approve them, they go parliament don't pass or can begin popularize and say no, we know the part of this. So this is the time I want the work for me, make your contribution now. I wanted TSC for B, make a contribution now.
But is the review process known to the relevant stakeholders?
So one of the responsibilities now for making known to the public, and this is why we graduate AYV Day for giving them voice they are. So if Mr. Cisse not talk or Mr. Ture not talk or anybody not talk me when a CSO, civil society within the sector, they make a public now, saying that then where they go on. So if the public get contribution, you can go unto the chief education officer. Now we have various social media platform for reach them. Say this now my contribution. Now so our work function. Now so moving forward our TSC, especially those old principles. Because when you talk about the TSC, now they manage, recruit, discipline. And for many cabinets we not approve for licenses for teacher. That process is slow. Mr. Turedia, Mr. don't charge and say slow because cabinet don't approve for that you get license. So in terms of way bridges teacher code of conduct they popularize now, they can withdraw your license. The teacher code of conduct, each and every teacher forgets them. When then they recruit them for hand over you as the Bible and Quran in the sector. When you the fifth one, it tells you the fifth principle now work ethics. The second one, it tells about effectiveness. Other will tell about efficiency. All of them one and them. When you recruit teacher, they know all of them and do's and don'ts and get a very strong TSC. Government will spend little in the education sector, but will get more gains because you will get discipline in the sector, you will get efficiency in the sector, and you will ensure say learning outcome will improve with the kind of training they will teachers and they get.
Mr. Meheux, so at this point now, how you think, say, governments with the established institutions like the TSC, the Ministry of Education, for able to utilize people where they go out, from the class, where they retire from the classroom?
I'm very happy that we have the Association of Retired Principals, and then they will even complement the efforts of the government for ensure that we have quality education. One other thing I can always say, even this Teacher Excellence Award, with them, this award, mean that one of the possible first we don't begin to bring up from even the last government because in Ghana I study. I find out in Ghana that the bill owes for somebody we not the best teacher. Sometimes the other bill owes for somebody in a 2-room you go get. Then go the other side a 1-room person go get. You go get Mercedes-Benz factory. We go say go give this other person motor car. So they get that son we go say go give this other person motor car. Now that they get every year. So all other bodies, not only government, get responsibility for complement the effort of government. I've fetch and sote, but I'm so happy that it don't become something. But we'll get more people there involved, make we able to assess the quality of the people that we do. One area we really feel we will get for ensure say if we have a strength education system. Where the mark paper for WAEC. the number of things where they learn, the mistakes them where them picking they make, where then they teach them, where then they answer question. You learn all that the way they teach them. Me serve as chief examiner internationally for 30 years. Then these are the people who give my commercial subjects. As you still go for work in a bank here, you talk in a teacher work you want to understand. So do you make we even get subject associations them. All the subject commercial, I started it when I be chairman of principals, but later on. Another area we need to do, we forget association of CTA chairpersons. All the school and CTA chairpersons have been starting with them. We'll be meeting at local school them. So any two them for do. Another association will need where they don't form now, we are very happy. Me not be the guest speaker where they start na CPAS, Association of Past Pupils, where they make an association, me not be the guest speaker for the program. The reason being, it's sad when they go inspect exam, particularly in one particular area. Now long bench them picking the sit down. If you check Ghana, Nigeria, all man get table and chair. So they appeal to CTA them. With the appeal to Past People's Association, more no give government all that responsibility, be too much for government. Make we ensure say they get table and chair for picking them. If one past people can say, I will donate one chair and table, then sure say they get 1,000 past people in all of them schools and the community will help them. Them people will get social responsibility. All them business they will establish in certain areas, they self get responsibility they for pay to them schools and if we ensure say we get that thing, I will tell you say the glory we see are not lost in the education sector. We will get them. We need seasoned people in the education sector. We need to work as a team. Make everybody who is interested in education devoid that from politics.
Okay. Well, plenty thank you, gentlemen.
Last.
Yes, quickly, few seconds.
Yeah, just last one. Me feel proud for Sidona AYV elect today. Few years back with the idea of AYV CAM, Ambassador Navo say for promote young people in this country. Yeah, a host of young people will sacrifice. But they like today, if you see, get a very young cabinet. I believe says His Excellency look at the running of AYV, and young people in the runner. So I want to commend Anthony Junior Navo for this kind of investment when you do so. And a young person up to now. And I want to talk to the young people that will present to our points. They will not disappoint with the young people there. They will make sure so we'll be consultative. Let me make sure say whatever decision they take, we involve with deputy. Don't know redundant to deputy them. As young people, now we're going to pave the way for more young people them to come into governance.